Attention, the following broadcast has been approved by Outcasted OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Friday Night Smackdown review. You are here with Just G. It is my turn to review this week. So let's get straight into it. There was a lot to unpack on this week's episode. So much happened. So much leading up to the Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, this time in 2 weeks we will literally be watching Elimination Chamber. How freaking mad is that? But yeah, let's get into this. So we start off the show with Triple H making his way down to the ring. I always love when we see Triple H on these shows because it makes it feel like he is definitely more a part of it than just the backstage stuff. I love seeing him in backstage segments. I love seeing him come out to the ring. I love seeing him make announcements. Anyway, Triple H makes his way down to the ring. We have Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce waiting in the ring for him to come down, and they greet him. They all shake hands. So Triple H starts off his announcement by saying about the press conference the other night, talking about how wild it was, how things really got heated up, how everybody really stood their authority and stood their ground, how things really took a left turn and he didn't expect that, and how now the road to WrestleMania is absolutely on fire. It's crazy, it's wild, and we are so here and we are so ready for it. He then goes on to say that he thinks a few people need putting in their place because there is a few people that think they have more authority when they actually have no authority whatsoever. The decision making is left to one person and one person only. And he's like, you're staring at him, insinuating that he's the only one that makes the decisions around here and he's the only person that final things get put through. I think he was making a dig at The Rock, and The Rock being like, well, I'm going to putting his foot down, saying he's going to be the one that's main eventing WrestleMania and stuff. But we will see where that goes and how that stands. He puts it into perspective and he's like, I'm here to clear it up. For our main event of WrestleMania, Roman Reigns will be facing Cody Rhodes at the main event of WrestleMania. So it is confirmed from Triple H himself that Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes will be happening 100% at WrestleMania. And then he's like, so I've got one thing left to say. Welcome to the road to WrestleMania. And that's where Triple H starts talking. And it was fabulous. I loved it so much. Nick Aldis then goes on to say we've got one thing left to finish, which is finding Seth Rollins an opponent for WrestleMania. And he's like, that decision will be made from the men's elimination chamber in Perth. So Seth Rollins' opponent is going to be the winner of the men's elimination chamber in Perth. And he's like, we will be starting tonight with qualifying matches for the elimination chamber. Then Adam Pearce says we have 12 people ready for these qualifying matches, and he goes on to list off the 12 people that are going to be in the qualifying matches for the Elimination Chamber, and they are as follows: the RKO Randy Orton, Bronson Reed, Kevin Owens, the United States Champion Logan Paul, AJ Styles, The Miz, Bobby Lashley, Ivar, Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, Dirty Dominic Mysterio, and LA Knight. Those are the 12 people that were announced for the Elimination Chamber qualifying matches. So 6 of those people will win and will be in the Elimination Chamber match. I'm very excited. There's a good bunch of people there that will make a very good match. I'm not sure who I want to see win out of those 6 people. I need to have a bit more of a think on it. I have a couple of ideas, but I'm not entirely sure. I feel like there's one name that sticks out the most, but we will see. So we then go on to our first qualifying match for the night, which is AJ Styles versus Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre makes his way out to the ring. He has a mic in hand, so he's obviously going to say something. He goes on to tell us how his shirt, he was wearing his CM Punk Mania shirt, and he's like, my CM Punk shirt has sold more than CM Punk's actual shirts. It's overtook the records. So thank you for that. And he thanks everybody for what they've done to help sell that shirt out and stuff. He then says that he's the one that saved WrestleMania by taking Punk out, by not giving Punk the chance to go to WrestleMania, and how he's happy that Cody can go and finish his story now that Punk isn't here. And then he goes on to say there's one last thing that he needs to do, and he's like talking to Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, and he's like, I need to give you a champ that is good for the business, and you are looking at him, and he's like, I can do that, by winning the Elimination Chamber. So Drew's basically insinuating that he's going to win the Elimination Chamber. He's going to go on to beat Seth Rollins. I think he's the one that makes sense, but I'm not sure at this point in time. I'm not sure. I'm going to wait to see who the 6 people are in the qualifying match before I make a decision on who I think will win and go against Seth Rollins. Because personally, I think with Seth's injury, he possibly will lose at Mania so that he can go on to have the surgery he needs and heal. So whoever does win the chamber, I think they possibly will win at Mania. But we'll see. We'll see. So then AJ Styles comes out for his entrance, and then we are greeted by LA Knight. LA Knight makes an entrance out of nowhere, just so randomly. Now, we know that LA Knight and AJ Styles have a bit of history from, like, the feud with Roman Reigns and Randy Orton and stuff. But LA Knight makes his way down to commentary, and he decides he's going to sit on commentary for this entire match. It's quite funny because Wade Barrett and Corey Graves are like, are you just out here scouting who you could possibly against in the Elimination Chamber? And he's just like, yeah. It was really funny. It was really good. Anyway, onto the match. So AJ Styles goes straight in for Drew straight away, not giving him a chance to do anything. He corners Drew McIntyre in the corner. Obviously, gee, get your words out. But Drew then manages to counter and hits AJ with a heavy chop, and AJ is down and out for it. Drew then hits a backbreaker to AJ Styles and goes in for a cover, but AJ Styles manages to kick out. So then AJ Styles is starting to climb the ropes from backwards, but he is like kicking Drew McIntyre from the front as he is climbing up those ropes. Drew, however, manages to get up and counter, and he chops AJ Styles straight off the top of the ropes down onto the floor. Back up in the ring, they're both going at it for a little bit, and then we end up on the ropes again. AJ power bombs Drew McIntyre off the top rope. He goes for a pin, but Drew McIntyre kicks out of the pin. Drew gets up and hits a DDT to AJ. AJ is out on the floor then. He is, like, gone. Drew gets up, but you can see him, like, hobbling, holding his knee as he stands up. It looks like he's done something to his knee. He looks like he's in a lot of pain, like a lot of pain. But he goes into the corner of the ring. As you can know, he's setting up for a Claymore. AJ Styles gets up. Drew goes for the Claymore, but AJ Styles manages to absolutely dodge that Claymore out of nowhere. And gets Drew then in a calf crusher, as he obviously noticed that he was holding his knee and he was in a lot of pain with his knee. You can see Drew literally like crunching at this calf crusher on the leg that he was holding. It looked painful. So they both then end up out of the ring by the announce table. LA Knight decides to get involved at this point. LA Knight pours water. He tips the water bottle off the side of the announce table. So it's like hanging over and water is like pouring on AJ Styles. And he picks the bottle up and he's just like, I don't know. He then offers AJ Styles a drink of water and AJ's like, what? And literally smacks the bottle out of his hand. From behind, Drew then comes and pushes AJ Styles straight into LA Knight. And LA Knight was not happy, I can tell you that. Drew goes back up into the ring. AJ follows. At this point, AJ is going in on Drew, but LA Knight decides to jump up on the apron and distract the ref. So the ref is like telling LA Knight to get down, you know, you're not meant to be up here. You can't come in the ring because he's trying to put his leg through the ropes. At this point, AJ Styles has rolled up Drew McIntyre into a pin. Drew's shoulders are down. The ref should be counting. He would have won. He would have won if LA Knight had not been distracting the ref. So then AJ kind of moves and is like, what's going on? Where's the ref? Drew gets up. AJ turns around, sees LA Knight is there, stood with the ref, and like shifts him off. As AJ turns around, Drew obviously goes in for the Claymore, pins AJ Styles and wins. So Drew McIntyre is our first qualifier for the men's Elimination Chamber. I actually picked Drew to win out of these two anyway, so I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, so Drew is our first entrance for the men's Elimination Chamber. So we then move on to our next match of the evening, which is Bianca Belair versus Michin. This is a qualifying match for the women's Elimination Chamber. So we know we only have Becky Lynch already qualified for the women's. She's the only one from Monday Night Raw. So next is our match between Bianca and Michin. Bianca tries to go in for a KOD straight away. And Minchin's like, nah, I'm not having none of this. She counters that straight away. I actually think Minchin was like the superstar of this match. She really, really performed so well. But there was a lot of back and forth from the beginning. Minchin was countering all of Bianca's moves constantly, in control. And then Bianca gains control, and she's not given chance for Minchin to do much then, as she does. So the back and forth continues and they both end up on the top rope. Bianca is given 10 punches to the head from Minchin. However, Minchin then manages to move under Bianca and counter, and she superplexes Bianca from the top rope. However, Minchin then does unfortunately become a victim of the KOD, and Bianca pins Minchin to win. So Bianca is a qualifier for the Women's Elimination Chamber match. So we now have Becky and Bianca qualified for the Elimination Chamber match. So we then move on to a backstage segment of Triple H and Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker has come in to ask Triple H for his advice on what to do. You know, Triple H is like, I see you going far, etc, etc. Bron Breakker is like, I have been offered 2 amazing contracts, one from Raw, one from SmackDown, and I don't know what to do. As he says this, Paul Heyman appears from the side and he's just like smiling in his creepy little Paul Heyman way, like he does. And Triple H is like, we'll speak later, and Bron Breakker walks off. And as Bron Breakker walks off, Paul Triple H, they're both named Paul, it's really confusing. Triple H instantly turns around to Paul Heyman and is like, what do you want? I know there's a bit of tension between these two. Heyman is like, I can see this is a bad time right now, maybe I should come back next week. And he's like, actually, you know what, I will come back next week with my tribal chief. He goes off to walk off and then comes back and he goes, and The Rock. So Triple H is going to be greeted by Paul Heyman, The Rock and Roman Reigns next week. And I wonder what for. But as Paul Heyman walks off again, Triple H is like, I'm looking forward to it. I feel like they're going to try and twist the WrestleMania main event again back to The Rock route and put their argument forward as to why it should be Roman versus The Rock, not Roman versus Cody. Possibly setting up something between the 3 for Elimination Chamber. I'm not sure, but we'll see where that goes because that is very interesting. I wasn't sold on the whole Rock Roman Cody thing. I expressed my feelings online that I didn't want Cody Rhodes to win the Royal Rumble. I don't want to see The Rock versus Roman because it's just a family feud, passing time. We know Roman Reigns is going to win. We know Roman's going to go on to beat those records, possibly Hulk Hogan's later this year. That is why I personally don't see Cody finishing his story this year, because they are so close to having a new record set from Roman Reigns. He will beat Hulk Hogan. He will become the 3rd, I think, longest reigning Universal Champion. And to have someone from the modern era do that, I think they can't pass up on an opportunity like that. So that is why I don't think Cody is finishing his story this year. But we'll see what happens. Anything can change. Anything can happen. We then swiftly move on to Bayley making her way down to the ring. She's come to talk about her issues with Damage Control and what happened and just speak her mind. Bayley starts off by saying, you know, Damage Control were a family. They still are her family. Well, they're not so much a family anymore. They were like family, you know. They stuck together. They did everything together. She pushed and pushed Io Dakota. She gave and gave to Damage Control and she asked for nothing in return. And then she's like, I probably deserve this, you know. I happily had it coming, but I was really sad to see Damage Control break up, but I think there's going to be some good things come from it. I am a really, really big Bayley fan, so I'm excited to see her go to WrestleMania and potentially become champion again. So after Bayley's had a little speech on how Damage Control betrayed her and stuff, Dakota makes her way in. She's got a mic in her hand. She's like, Bayley, I've been texting you all week and you've been literally ghosting me. And Bayley's like, oh, hi Dakota. She was like, yeah, well, where was you last week when I needed you the most? And she was like, you know, I'm close to being cleared. I had to meet with my doctor. Oh my God, Dakota Kai is so close to being cleared. I think she would definitely be cleared by Elimination Chamber. I think that is the act they are going for, since she is a New Zealand. She was born in New Zealand. She is from New Zealand. I think it would be so critical for her to be at Elimination Chamber to represent that era of the world. And she was like, I had to meet with my doctor, you know, I'm so close to being cleared. And then Dakota goes on to say, you know, we both believed in you, Bayley, you know, me and Io believed in you. And Bailey was like, but you knew what they were saying behind my back. You were there with them. You were laughing. You knew what they were doing. Why didn't you tell me? And stuff. And Dakota's like, but me and Io believed in you. You won the Rumble, Bailey, as you, not as Damage Control. That was all you. That was nothing to do with Damage Control at all. She was like, when me and Io believed in you, but then Kyrie came. I know you had some issues with Kyrie, but she and her got in Io's head, and that was history then. That was it. They were taking the mick out of you every week and everything, and she couldn't do anything about it. And then Bailey's like, well, why didn't you tell me? And Dakota's like, I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. She thought it would all blow over eventually and they would just stop, but it never stopped. And so Bailey is like, well, where do you stand now, Dakota? Are you with them or are you with me? And then Io, Asuka and Kyrie make an appearance. They walk down to the ring. They surround Bailey, one on each side of the ropes. Dakota rolls out the back by the announce table. And the other three have got Bailey surrounded. Dakota, however, grabs a steel chair, pushes it in the ring, jumps back up on the ring, comes in with this steel chair. Bailey is facing towards the ramp at this point, like she's ready to hit Bailey from the back. However, she runs past Bailey, smacks the other three off the ring, puts the chair down and stands by Bailey. I'm excited about this. I'm glad that she has kind of like gone towards Bailey. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. So the three, Io, Kyrie and Asuka, are walking back up the ring, and then you've obviously got Bailey and Dakota stood in the ring. Bailey kind of kicks the chair out of the way, like, because Dakota's like really on edge. She doesn't know what to do. So there's a few ways that this story could go now, and I'm excited for any way that they go. Like, they could be using Dakota as a ploy to get towards Bailey, and she turns on Bailey eventually, and she's still with Damage Control, or Bailey and Dakota could team up against Damage Control. Either way, I am very, very, very invested in this story and very excited to see where it ends. So next we go on to our qualifying match for the chance to face Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest for the Undisputed Tag Team belts at Elimination Chamber. And the two teams involved are Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne versus DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. So we start with Tyler Bate and Johnny Gargano. It's very back and forth at the beginning. They are literally rolling up, counter, pin, counter, pin. It was really good to watch them like doing that, like multiple roll-ups, multiple pin attempts within like the first couple of minutes. It was really good. It was really good. Like, all four of these guys are phenomenal like wrestlers. Their styles are very different and very unique, and they always put on a great match, especially Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. The represents from the UK, because Tyler Bate is from Dudley, which is about 20 minutes from me, and Pete Dunne is from Birmingham, which is where I am from. So seeing these two wrestle together again is great, because we love to see that Birmingham UK represent. So anyway, as the match continues, there is a lot of back and forth between the four. Johnny Gargano and Tyler Bate are the legal tagged in opponents at the moment, but all four of them seem to be in and out the ring all the time, at each other. Eventually we do get to see Pete Dunne being thrown out. Tyler Bate has Johnny Gargano on his back. Literally, Johnny Gargano is like crunched round his back. Tyler Bate then also picks up Tommaso Ciampa by the legs, and he does his spin move with Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano on his back. It was hilarious to watch. If I can find a picture, I will insert it here. It was so funny. And he literally does his spin and then drops Tommaso Ciampa, and then drops Johnny Gargano. Again, there was a lot of back and forth between the four of them, in and out of the ring. Eventually we do see Pete Dunne tag himself out as Tyler Bate as Tyler Bate goes out of the ring. I don't think Johnny Gargano had noticed this, as he is illegal tagged in for DIY at the moment. He does come up behind Johnny Gargano, hits Johnny Gargano with the bitter end, and he pins Johnny Gargano. 1, 2, 3. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate are going to the Elimination Chamber to face Judgment Day for the tag belts. This is exciting. As I said, it's exciting for me because UK represent. So we move on to a backstage segment then where Dom is talking to, I think it was Byron Saxton, I can't remember. He was talking to one of the backstage guys anyway, and he's saying, or it could have been Kayla, I'm not sure, I can't remember. It was one of them. So Dom was talking, saying, he was talking some trash about how he's going to win the Elimination Chamber. He's going to beat Seth Rollins, and him and Mommy are going to have their lovely gold bouts together. You know, both Women's World Heavyweight Champion and WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And then we see Kevin Owens walk in, and Kevin Owens is like, you're not going to do it. Do you know why? Because I'm your opponent next week on SmackDown. So we have Dominic Mysterio versus Kevin Owens for the qualifying match for the Chamber next week. I would like to see Kevin Owens win this one. I think it would be really interesting if Logan Paul and Kevin Owens both won, since they have a lot of like history. It would cause some tension in the Chamber match. That would be really cool. Coming onto that anyway, we see a segment where Logan Paul goes to Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis and is like, why have I told you to give me a United States Championship opponent, not a qualifying match for the Chamber. And he's really annoyed about how that Nick Aldis has given him a qualifying match for the Chamber and not an actual opponent. And then he goes on to say that he's really annoyed, but he's going to go into this Chamber, he's going to win, he's going to beat Seth Rollins, and he's going to become a double champ. But then they decide to tell him who his opponent is next week for the qualifying match, and it is none other than The Miz. So our two qualifying matches on Friday Night SmackDown next week are Kevin Owens versus Dirty Dominic Mysterio, and Logan Paul, the United States Championship, versus The Miz. So those are the two matches to look out for next week. Okay, so we move on to our main event for this evening, which is another qualifying match for the Men's Elimination Chamber between Sami Zayn and the RKO Randy Orton. This match starts off like quite slow. The guys, they go in for a couple of little moves, and then Randy rolls out the ring and is kind of walking around the ring just like staring at Sami, like trying to know what to do, you know, building up some tension for the match. Eventually they get back in the ring. Randy manages to push Sami into the corner. He jumps up on the rope and he's going in for punches on Sami. He gets to about 5 or 6 punches. Sami manages to counter, get Randy's in the corner. He jumps up onto the ropes. He starts punching Randy. He gets to about 6 or 7. Randy counters. He then pushes Sami back into the corner and goes for the full 10 punches on Sami. They then then end up back out of the ring by the announce table. Randy throws Sami Zayn into the barricade, but Sami somehow manages to counter this, jump up onto the barricade and moonsaults back onto Randy Orton. He misses but clips him on the head just enough to knock him out. So it didn't fully like contact, but he still manages to hit Randy Orton. Okay, so the guys are going up the ropes again, punches as they go up the ropes, but Randy then sets up for a superplex. He superplexed Sami off the top rope into the middle of the ring. It looked so painful, and Randy's literally like, oh, my back. You can see that they're both in a lot of pain from that superplex off the top rope. The top rope. There was a bit of back and forth between the two again. Sami ends up outside the ring. As he's coming in, Randy goes to set up for that vintage Orton DDT. Sami, however, counters it, throwing Randy out of the ring, and then Sami does a suicide dive through the ropes onto Randy. They're both down by the announce table at this point. Randy picks up Sami. He power bombs him straight into the table. Probably not a power bomb, probably more of a slam into the announce table. It didn't break, but the bit of the bar on the top did like slam down. Randy's back up in the ring then at this point. Sami is slowly making his way back up into the ring. Randy sets up for that vintage DDT again. He goes for that vintage DDT. He goes to set up for the RKO as he's waiting for Sami to get up. He's on the floor doing his, you know, like banging on the floor thing that he does before he does an RKO. Sami actually counters because he sees the RKO coming. Sami rolls up Randy, but Randy manages to kick out, so he didn't successfully do the RKO. Sami goes then for a blue thunder bomb to Randy Orton. He pins Randy and Randy kicks out again. Randy then does magically managed to hit the RKO on Sami. He pins Sami Zayn and he wins. Randy Orton has qualified for the men's Elimination Chamber match. It was a bit like the main event. It was a good match between the two for a main event, but they gave them like 8 minutes. 8 minutes for a main event match was, I know it's a qualifying match, but they could have had a little bit longer, the pair of them. But it was a good match. It was a good match. I actually wanted Sami Zayn to win this match, but I'm okay with Randy winning. As Randy gets up, Sami Zayn has walked off already. He's not interested. Drew McIntyre appears behind Randy Orton, and they're kind of staring each other down in the middle of the ring. And as they get closer to each other, you hear Drew whisper to, like, say to Randy, "We've done this dance before. We're ready to do it again." And you then hear Randy go, "Of course you are. Of course you are." And that's it. It cuts. That is Friday Night SmackDown done. Absolutely over. So yeah, there was a lot to unpack from this week's SmackDown. A lot of build-up story moving forward to Elimination Chamber. So as far as Elimination Chamber goes now, we have Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, the first 2 out of 6 confirmed for the men's Elimination Chamber. We have Becky Lynch and we have Bianca Belair, the first 2 announced for the 6 women's Elimination Chamber match. We also have Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate versus Judgment Day, Damian Priest and Finn Balor for the Undisputed Tag Belt. And we also have Nia Jax versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. So as it's shaping up, Elimination Chamber is looking to be a fabulous match, like a fabulous show. Some good matches there. I'm hoping we see a couple of bout changes. I'm excited to see who Rhea and Seth's opponents are going to be from the Elimination Chamber matches. It's gonna be a good show. So yeah, that's everything from me this week. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and comments down in the comments section. What did you think of SmackDown? Who else do you want to qualify for the chamber matches? Let me know down there. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, like, comment, go check out our other videos. There will be a Raw review coming Tuesday, an NXT review coming Wednesday. Our next podcast will be Thursday at 8 PM UK time. We will be talking pop culture this week about movies, TV shows coming out in 2024, which ones we're excited for. A little bit of a shake up to the wrestling we do every week. So yeah, if you like what you saw, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye guys!